but let me get out of the way and make room for the Congressman Charles Rangel. Such a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, thank you.
Does this work here? Yes, this works. Thank you so very, very much. I am awed and inspired by this opportunity, and I apologize to my former intern, Kwame. Looks like I jumped him again. But this is a very proud opportunity for me to be a part of this formal coming together of Ghanaians. Let Pam be the beginning of a movement that goes on as long as it's necessary for us to come together. During the last election, I was so pleased to have met so many Ghanaians. I think some are here from Tracy Towers, and I went to a meeting, and as I was campaigning, I saw a big sign, Ghanaians meeting tonight, main room. And it's the beginning of a wonderful and new relationship that I cannot tell you the depth of pride that I feel as a person and my family feels. You know, when I was a youngster, and they used to call us colored, and then Negro, and then African American. And I remember among our own elected officials when we would try to bring our name to unite us, there was great opposition to the word black because somehow we were insulting each other when we used that word. And the word African, well, that went far beyond just being black, because the way we were trained, the closer you came to being European, the more you were respected here in America. It's a painful thing to say, but there are not too many countries where people don't know where they came from, don't know their families' names, have no idea of their culture, their language, or who they are. And then to have been treated as property, as human slaves, and tell you that Jesus was white and had blue eyes and blonde hair, and that God was floating around up there with a white beard, it's rather confusing for a young person to come up here, especially the only way that you could see how Accra had been depicted is in the jungles where Tarzan was there. And so when I reached the point that I was in the United States Congress and we formed the Congressional Black Caucus, there were 13 of us and I was the chair. And we had never traveled as a group before. And I thought it would send a terrific message, not to Africa, but to America, that we were going to the homeland and visit several countries in Africa. Well, it did make a lot of publicity, but in one of the countries that had just gained their independence, when we were broken up, the chairman of the Finance Committee, Minister of Finance, asked whether he could speak with me. So we had dinner together, and he said, "Why did you bring this group of Negro Americans to Africa?" Well, some had their fros and others had their dashikis, and I said, well, vicariously, because there has been a severance of our culture, that we had felt vicariously that we were there to enjoy your independence and to bring us closer together. He wasn't impressed. He walked over to the window of his home with his hands behind his back. He said, over there used to be a hospital. To the left of it used to be a school. And when the bombs were dropped by the Portuguese and the French, as a young man, I would come out and I would look at the casement of the bombs, and in yellow stencil letters it would say, "Made in the USA." He says, "My brother, are you made in the USA?" I can't begin to tell you how I felt myself being drilled into the floor. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought about the lack of power that African Americans had in this country, the more I thought is, why did he not think of us as Americans, except we just had color? But as it related to how America was treating Africa, there was absolutely no difference, and there should not have been any reason why they should think that because of our color that we could change the history of how our country treated Africa. Well, we all learned in our way that we had to find some way to work together. And as our numbers grew and we reached positions of authority in the legislature, one of the greatest things I was able to do was to create, and I think Kwame's going to talk about this in more detail, the African Growth and Opportunity Bill, which is called AGWOA. It was the first time that America ever thought about having any commercial trade with any country in Africa. And it provided assistance, reduced trade, and incentives to have Africa really to be involved in international trade. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, Amsterdam's still in the house? I just want to check the answer. Just yesterday, I got an invitation from President Obama that in August 5th and 6th and 7th, the Africans will be coming to have their African Summit in Washington, and I will be invited to the White House as well as to participate in other discussions where 40 African leaders, including the President of Ghana, will be there to talk about not their differences, but the similarity they have in a continent that is moving swiftly, so swiftly in economic growth, that now the whole industrial world is looking at this rich country in oil and minerals and agriculture and the ability to have pride in their country. And one of the problems that we have with AGOA is that while Africa has been able to excel in apparel, in relying on other countries like China to produce the fabric, then, my sister, we don't create the jobs, do we? We don't create the know-how. We don't force the people to know that if someone can do it for you, they're getting a part of the profit for the end, and the end will be here. And so, how great it is to know that people, Ghanaians, can leave Ghana, come to the United States, but Ghana doesn't leave you. That you recognize that your strength and respect in America, of course, will come in being citizens, but it would develop and be worth so much more when you're able to tell people that you're from Ghana. And the reason we Americans of color almost, I can't find another word, but envy you, Mr. Chairman, is because no matter what we do, because of the effectiveness of a handful of white people from Europe, no matter how long we're in this country, we cannot find a logical way to say that we are from Africa. That takes away something that all Americans have except us. To be able to say where they are from and what contribution they have made. So whether you like it or not, we colored, we black, we African Americans, we have adopted you to be able to say to anybody that if you give us a hard time, we're going to have to call on our brothers and sisters from Africa. That's right. But to get a little closer before I leave as to how you intend to be effective when I'm struggling to be effective in the United States and you want to change the lack of progress that's been made in Ghana, the first thing that you do is see what have you got going for you. And the speed in which you have developed a democratic government is amazing. The economic growth, notwithstanding that close to half of the people are still in poverty. But the possibilities with technology and advancements that we're making and the richness of the country's resources coming together and bringing people there to bring of assistance, there's no question that we're talking about a nation on the rise. Now, some countries have the ability to allow its citizens to enjoy a dual citizenship. I don't know whether that's the case with Ghana, but I can tell. Then I can tell you, if you want to change, you make certain that you're registered and you're able to vote. And it's widely accepted, whether it's true or not, that there's been a brain drain from Africa generally, and Ghana specifically, which means somebody's making some money. Now, we call in the United States mother love as money to make certain that politicians get elected. I think you had said that Pam is not concerned with the parties. I know the chairman did. But you are concerned with the principles. And I promise you that I will do all that I can to make certain that the principles that you want to achieve will go far beyond just meeting and talking about it. So, in August of next year, when I meet your president in Washington, Dr. Falou, I'm going to say to him, I don't know what the Ghanaians are up to, but they had an inaugural group called the Panamanian Alliance Movement. And I've seen this group all over New York City. I don't know what they were talking about, but I went to the meeting. And they appreciate their culture and the advancements that have been made toward democratic principles. But all I heard them talking about was equity and justice and the disparity between the rich and the poor, and how education and justice and all of those things. And I'm going to say, Mr. President, I was just so carried away with these principles, I told them, count on me. You know, because those things are American in nature. Don't you agree, Mr. President? He said, yes, I agree with you. And I said, they started a port, and some of them voted for me, and I told them that the Congressional Black Caucus had these same principles. He said, you did? You told them? I said, yes, I told them that all 43 of us are searching for roots in any part of Africa, and I'm introducing them to Ghana to come here and do what they can too. Because you see, my brothers and sisters, this just doesn't fit in with your aspirations to be great Americans and to improve your great country where you came from. It means it allows us in the Congressional Black Caucus to have someone to believe that we got someplace else to go. So, I know Herb Boyd is sitting down there believing he got his own papers, but he's my buddy. And if there's any papers for Americans to get, you get me a set of them too. But together, it's going to be so very exciting, because there are people that see you in your beautiful garb. They have yet to know how to approach you. And I remember as a kid after the war, when the United Nations opened and television was beginning, and I saw these beautiful black men, and now women, these beautiful black men and now women, come in with this beautiful garb that I have never seen in my life, with the gold and the scarves and the vestments, and speaking better English and French on a mic. And I told Mom, that's where we come from, Mom. That's where we come from. And so let this be the beginning. It's the beginning for your African American brothers and sisters. It's the start of a dynamic part of the relationship between Africa and the United States. And I can't tell you how proud I feel in being part of this movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Congressman, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the Honorable Charles Rangel.